take a seat. So I always like to start with the basics. You're working with sustainable air fuels. That can sound like a contradiction. What exactly are they?
Okay, so sustainability for aviation. Let's begin with who we are. So Finnair, we are the fifth oldest operating airline in the world. We celebrated our 100 years of existence 2 years ago. And we acknowledge that aviation is a hard to decarbonize industry. And one of the ways that we're talking about today is sustainable aviation fuel.
So what is a sustainable air fuel? How is it different from a traditional?
Okay, so sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, the good news about it is that it's here and now. It's today commercially available. And it can be made through basically 4 different pathways. One is you use used cooking oil and waste animal fat. The second is you take agricultural waste and gasify that to a fuel. Or you can take, the third way is to take sugars and starches and convert it to alcohol and then process that into jet fuel. And the final way is synthetically, without using any biological feedstock, synthetically produce aviation fuel. The main thing there for us is that whatever the pathway, it needs to be affordable, available, and sustainable.
So let's unpack that and talk about some of those challenges, because you say it is already available, you are already using it. The latest statistics that I could find, though, were that SAFs accounted for just 0.4% of your jet fuel use in 2024, but you want to get it up to 34.5 by 2023. That's a huge jump. How are you going to achieve that?
Yeah, so that's correct. We started using sustainable aviation fuel already back in 2011, but more systematically over the last few years. So last year, yes, 0.4%. This year, partly due to the European Union mandates, it's about 1.8%. But going forward, we will use SAF much more than is required by the mandates. And how we're going to get there, we need to basically collaborate with the industry as well as engage the customers to be able to afford all that.
So are you going to have to put the prices up for customers if you start offering SAFs rather than jet fuel?
Okay, now, back to sort of basic airline economics is that to address the rising costs of sustainability and SAF, we need to make sure that we have a profitable business, right? And there are 2 elements to that. One, first of all, we need to take resilient and extreme care of our cost efficiency, okay? That's, upon us, execute on operational efficiency. And then secondly is to work together with the customers and collaborate with the industry in order to be able to make the ends meet for profitable flying. So that's how we're going to go about that.
Okay. That's a big issue, and we can't escape from the fact that Finnair has been in the headlines. There have been strikes over conditions, and that's had also an impact on travelers and consumers. So a lot of people might be skeptical about the potential that they might have to pay more in future.
Yeah. So we are executing on a strategy to engage the customers. So we launched our Finnair for Business service just recently. And as a part of that service, we have a SAF for Business service, which means that corporate customers can basically purchase SAF and then track their usage of SAF in their business travel and have a legitimate way of reducing their Scope 3 emissions from business travel and claim against that in their emissions reporting. And for consumers, we a year ago launched a way in which any customer can basically purchase SAF when they're booking their ticket. And look, 31,000 customers can't be wrong. They've done it already, and 8 corporations. So I think we're making good progress there and have an increasing trend on the customer engagement.
If we had a climate campaigner on this panel, they would be saying, even if fuels become greener, we still shouldn't be traveling as much, and that there's other aspects to our carbon footprint, even if we fly with more sustainable fuel. What would you say to them?
Sorry, come again with a question.
If we had a climate campaigner on this panel,
yes.
They would be saying, even if the fuel is greener, we should still be flying less, because our footprint, there's a carbon footprint wherever we go. If we're moving around, there's other aspects of of emissions, building the planes, all the other parts of the process. What would you say to that argument?
So it's a good point that whilst other modes of transport are electrifying and they are therefore decarbonizing, and other industries are decarbonizing, it means that aviation can become into the spotlight of aviation is growing and the emissions are there. But what I would say is to also remember the economic and social good that flying brings. Okay, flying connects people, connects businesses, connects cultures, and that is really, really valuable. So we need to protect that. We need to do everything in our power, use all the ways and means to get there. So as an airline, what we do is the vast majority of our decarbonization path is to use SAF. So SAF is by far the biggest lever in that. Second is to renew the fleet, meaning using more fuel efficient, newer fleet. Third is to design your network and operation so that it is less carbon intensive. And fourthly, in terms of day-to-day operation, you make sure it boils down to basically aircraft weight and fuel consumption. So reduce the weight of the aircraft and also improve on fuel efficiency in everyday flying.
Okay, so you are looking at the holistic picture. You mentioned electrification there and how that's become much more of a bigger deal in public transport, buses, vehicles. What about electrification in planes? There are companies in Europe that are pushing that as an alternative to SAFs. Is that something you're also looking at Finnair?
Yeah, we are following electric flying very closely. In addition to electric flying, there are also other disruptive means of propulsion. So there's electric, there's hydrogen, there's hybrid, and we follow all of this. But let's remember two things. One is that it'll take decades for these to be commercially available, scaled, and safe. Maybe a decade and a half. And the second is that those technologies will only relate to flying that is sort of fairly short haul, fairly short distance, meaning that the total global impact of that is small compared to long haul flying. Because for long haul flying, that will account for the vast majority of aviation emissions. And today, and for the foreseeable future, there isn't really a replacement to the liquid carbohydrates that or hydrocarbons that we're using in long haul flying. So therefore, we need SAF, and we need to commercialize and make SAF widely available.
How much collaboration is there within the airline industry, and particularly within Europe? Because it seems like if everybody knows that this is the answer, why is there not more collaboration to kind of speed things forward, to find ways to make it more cost efficient for everyone?
There is collaboration. Maybe it's behind the scenes, but it's happening, and it's a must. Because collaboration is the only way to find the least path of resistance in onboarding this new energy. So for example, a renewable energy supplier could be speaking now very closely with a pulp and paper producer. And why? Green electricity combined with the carbon dioxide, biogenic carbon dioxide that comes from pulp and paper, can be combined to produce new fuels. So these kind of new alliances are being formed. We collaborate, for example, with Neste on biogenic, the world's largest SAF manufacturer to date. Neste, my sustainable aviation fuel, is 100% made from renewable raw materials such as used cooking oil and waste animal fat. And that fuel reduces greenhouse gas emissions 80% over the life cycle of the fuel.
80%?
80%, and that's significant. Okay, today you cannot use 100% SAF, so it needs to be blended with kerosene, 50%. But still it's significant. On the synthetic fuel side, we are collaborating with a Finnish startup company called Liquid Sun, who are together with us demonstrating production of synthetic fuels in Finland. So that's Finland's first. Plus then we are looking at a whole range of other projects across the world to identify which of those projects would be the best ones for us to collaborate with, meaning which ones of those are techno-economically the most efficient ones.
Okay, really interesting to hear what's happening behind the scenes. So just wrap up with a few figures for us to take away then. You said there are your own targets and there are also the EU targets, but can you visualize a time when most of us are going to be flying in SAF-fueled planes? Could that be at Nordic Business Forum that we travel here in 10 years' time, 5 years' time, 50 years' time?
So, as I said, SAF is here and now. The mandate today, which is an obligation on the fuel suppliers, not the airlines, but it's 2% of all the fuel needs to be SAF today. In 2030, that's 6%. And then over in 2050, when we aim for net zero, it's 70%. So it's like a non-linear path. And that's important to remember, that the path will not be linear to our climate goals, mainly because some of the solutions don't even exist yet, like synthetic fuels. But we need to remember that we need to protect the economic and social good of flying. It's not perfect today, but we believe that it's going to be like, progress over perfection. And the key solution there is mid to long term, it's SAF.
Okay, Riku, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us in the HS Visio studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.